Okay, hello everybody, and happy afternoon on this hot Monday. We'll get started in just a few minutes as folks continue to join. Okay, I think we are about at a full house. Hey, great. Thank you all for joining here today on July 8th. It's nice to be with you. And let's see, for people continue to join. This is Natasha Detweiler Davy, the Director of Affordable Rental Housing here. And so we just have this monthly meeting to just talk about what things are going on, including what's happening at Housing Stability Council this Friday. This month, we have a very short agenda for the affordable rental housing division at Housing Stability Council, so that should be a pretty quick update. And then we do also have North Highland here to be able to provide another update on the work that we have been doing on the organization side. And of course, other questions related to either of those things, of course. So I guess with that, I'll just kind of get us started. Um, let's see, Housing Stability Council, we have some 3 transactions that will be moving forward to Housing Stability Council for funding. We have no policy items coming this month. And so I guess any questions on those transactions or okay. Um, and let's see. More recent engagement we have done with folks has been around our agency request and budget process. We are continuing to work through to finalize our kind of draft all of the feedback, and we'll be planning to share that pretty soon. I did also want to share that the Oregon centralized application, the ORCA process, is continuing to move. And so if anybody is so inclined, I'll just put in the chat the get help with the ORCA page. We do have an engagement on July 11th, an engagement on office hours to be able to chat with the team, to be able to get any help with where you are in navigating the process. And I think that's really our short and sweet update for this month. So with that, I think I will ask Michael from North Highland, I see on the screen, Michael, to be able to share some of the work that we have been doing to grow and improve, evolve our organization. This has been, I think he will cover a bit of the context for this, but this is work that we have shared at times in the past, and so want to continue to keep up that practice.
Thank you, Natasha. And hi, everyone. Nice to meet you if we have not met before. My name is Michael Johnson. I use he, him pronouns. I am a consultant with North Highland leading our team at OHCS. And really grateful for the time today to quickly walk through sort of updates on the organizational improvement efforts that Natasha was referencing. And with that, I'm going to share my screen and we're going to walk through some slides. Ooh, it says host disable participant screen sharing.
Well, that was me. Let me work on that.
Okay,
okay, can you try again?
That did the trick. Thank you.
Great.
Great. Okay. So I just have a couple slides, but I think it'll help us tell the story of what this is, where we started, where we are now. And it's been a really great experience working with Natasha and the Affordable Rental Housing team. So just as a summary and recap, North Highland was hired late last year to conduct an organizational assessment of affordable rental housing. That included an analysis phase, a recommendations phase, and now we're in the implementation phase. As you recall, we did an assessment looking and interviewing employees. We also had a chance to speak to some of you to get your thoughts and input on how ARH is doing. We then worked with ARH to identify peer states, so other organizations similar to the work that ARH does, to identify best practices and things that we want to steal to bring to Oregon. We also looked at other organizational development best practices. With that, we, in collaboration with the leadership team at ARH, created 17 recommendations, and we're going to walk about and discuss that today. And right now, we are working on implementing those recommendations. I believe that we can provide this deck, and I can give Natasha a PDF version that she can distribute to folks if you're interested. I know that this meeting is being recorded, and if you have any questions, I will put my email address in the chat at the end of this discussion, and you can reach out to me. So I just wanted to just do a quick callback to the qualitative feedback that we received from external partners. We had two methods. The first was an online survey. We received about 21% response rate of the 275 folks that we requested to fill out the survey. The survey respondents included developers, owners, development consultants, property managers, and local jurisdictions. And then we also conducted some interview sessions. So we invited about 59 external partners, representative of those different groups, to attend one of 6 focus group sessions. We held these sessions in late December to better understand what's working and what's not working. If we had to choose one slide to talk about sort of your thoughts and interview themes and findings, it's this. I think that predominantly folks felt like that there was a lack of predictability, a lack of consistency, and that ARH is working hard with the wrong focus. There are a couple nuances to that, right? You noted a strained relationship dynamic where sometimes it feels like maybe adversarial working with the state, that sometimes there may be a sense of distrust between the relationship, and that, we're often requesting feedback, but maybe not incorporating it. I do want to provide context though. So this was information that we collected in November and December, and I know that there was a bunch of change happening at that time with the Oregon centralized application process. And so would be curious if we did this again, if these interview themes would stay the same or if they would shift slightly now that we're about 6 months beyond December. And when we talk to internal employees and when we talk to you, we sort of came away with these problem statements. And I'm going to briefly walk through those with you now. And these problem statements are the things that we wanted to address with the recommendations. So if I think about it from a large, big systems perspective, what we found was that there was significant investment in both resources, in people over the past 5 years at ARH, but that ARH's process, tools, management, and team structures haven't really scaled with that increase in resources. Employees noted a lack of internal documentation and insufficient hiring practices that are causing some challenges within the organization. We have observed and noted that the COVID-19 pandemic continues to disrupt or had disrupted compliance activities and was contributing to employee turnover. We saw significant employee turnover across many different state agencies in Oregon as well as outside of Oregon as part of sort of the pandemic. Folks that maybe were ready to retire, moved on, or switched roles. And so there has been a significant number of turnover at ARH. The division's core business systems, which some of you may be familiar with, you may be most familiar with Procorum, but there's also a system called ProLink, was implemented over the past several years, but the state did not provide appropriate configuration or training. And so that is providing some challenges to the state as they're beginning to use the software in a more robust way. I think that everyone on this call can relate to this, and I'm sure that your organizations are facing similar challenges working in a remote environment, which has led to silos across the ARH team, challenges with internal communication, and then inconsistent ways of working, right? Where before we could be in a cubicle next to each other, sharing information, it becomes harder when it's not, you have to be a little bit more proactive and use a different muscle set, I think. And then again, I think that the Oregon Consolidated Application is already live, and I'm sure that there are challenges that you all are working through with ARH. But when we did this assessment, that was a significant, employees noted that was a significant change to core business process. And that employees, as well as, you, the external partners, were experiencing some change fatigue. And so when we think about all of these aspects, we sort of identified changes needed in the way that ARH operates. And so when I think about their operating model or how they work, I think about organizational structure. We think about process and tools, governance, accountability, and then leadership and culture. And so the next slide is going to have a ton of words, and I'm not going to read all the words, but I wanted to provide sort of an overview of what were the recommendations that North Highland developed in collaboration with ARH. Like I mentioned, they fall into these 4 categories. One of the things that we recommended was restructuring the division to right size sort of their structure and their management structure. There were some areas of the organization with 20 direct reports. And, as we look at organizational best practices, we typically like to see, 6 to 8 direct reports per supervisor. And so that makes it really challenging and leads to burnout for folks. We did recommend some improvements to the division leadership level, and we're going to look at sort of an organizational chart in just a second, helping support Natasha in all the work that's happening with external partners, the governor's office, Housing Stability Council, and other significant stakeholders as the state is trying to increase housing production and sort of change the way that it works. A big piece that employees had highlighted and that will be part of ARH's improvement journey is around clarifying decision making. So making sure that it's clear how to get things done within the organization, pushing decision making down to the lowest level possible, really enabling employees to be supportive and work collaboratively with external partners to achieve the results that I think everybody wants to achieve. There were some things that we noted about process and needing additional knowledge management and documentation. So there's a few recommendations in here about sort of helping ARH get their hands around all the various very complex processes that goes into these real estate transactions and long-term compliance monitoring and asset management. There's also some more work to do regarding how is ARH engaging with you, external partners. I think this isn't just an ARH thing, but I think the agency struggles with this. On the agency side, there is no centralized customer relationship management system where we see lots of other organizations who have lots of people working and are interacting with lots of folks. It's difficult for the agency to track all those interactions, leading to, I think, some confusion that you may feel on your side. And then when we think about leadership and culture, really thinking about what is the purpose of ARH? What are ARH's beliefs and values? So we worked with the ARH leadership team to refine that in a little bit more way, and what are the words that we want to use and how do we want to show up with external partners, as well as defining standard ways of working within each ARH team, as well as across teams and with external partners, et cetera. The highlighted little tags are the recommendations that ARH has begun to implement. And the plan is to take a phased approach, sort of like, what's the best way to eat an elephant? It's bite, 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 right? And so there's a lot of work here to do, starting with sort of the most acute things that are going to really sort of lead to the most pressure release to support employees. That's kind of where the agency is focusing right now to support these recommendations. I do want to provide a little bit more information about the ARH organizational structure. And so this is a pretty high level organizational chart. And as we went through the assessment and worked to define the future state, one of the areas that we identified was at sort of the division leadership level, needing more executive oversight. And so we've established, or we recommended, and the agency has established 3 deputy director positions. So we have Roberto Franco, who's the deputy director over development, and that would include development resources, production and transactions, and then a technical advisory team. We have Heather Pate as the Deputy Director of Strategy and Operations, overseeing planning and policy as well as operations. And then we have Tanya Evans as the Deputy Director of Portfolio, overseeing the compliance and asset management function, the HUD contracts section, and then a portfolio support team. Some of the other big changes that we recommended as part of this work was to right size some of the team sizes. So like I had mentioned, there were a few teams like in production, a whole lot of employees with a single manager. And so finding ways to right size that a bit so that ARH can be more effective at providing employee support and management oversight of the work that's getting done. In the portfolio side, previously ARH was working and organized with a compliance team where there were two compliance managers and then the compliance specialists under that, and then a separate asset management team. And then the way that the properties were assigned sort of depended on region and some other things. What we recommended was that the compliance and asset management functions be consolidated to bring folks closer to the properties that they're working on, and so that they can collaborate across compliance and asset management. What that'll look like is there will be 4 portfolio teams with different properties assigned, probably maybe by property manager or some other way that is TBD, and that we'll be working with the folks to define. And those changes probably won't happen until the next calendar year for compliance, right? So they're going to follow through with the assignments that they have today. So there will be no change from your perspective, but did want to provide a little bit more information regarding that piece. And then I was wondering if maybe I can turn it back to Natasha and see if you had any other thoughts or things you wanted to highlight through this process. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen, but I'm happy to pull up other slides if that's helpful.
Great. Thank you so much, Michael. Yeah, and I'm just really happy to be able to share this significant body of work that we've continued to move through as we are working through many other significant bodies of work and the ongoing work that is everybody's days. But I think that this, both the reorganization and really the work to come from standards of process documentation and all of the work really from ORCA being infused through all of this. It is, I think, really an exciting opportunity, and it is a time where on the portfolio side, we'll be able to engage in stronger connection of asset management throughout portfolios and into compliance. We will be able to acknowledge the fact that we have so many different programs now. Not all of them are development resources. There's lots of different work going on. And so giving each of those roles the support that they need to really thrive and work in collaboration. And I think part of the really a critical piece of this for us as we were navigating all of this is realizing as we have grown, expanded, and the world keeps changing and our work keeps changing, that we really need to and have needed to define what our purpose is, what our values are, how are we guiding our work. And I think we did a lot of this, I think, as we navigated through the ORCA process, identifying what are our key values to help us really make clear decisions, make the right answer for this moment and this time become clear. And so I think we are nearing finalizing that. I think I just wanted to be able to share a little bit about, our purpose, making sure that we are wanting to center our work on ensuring access to safe, affordable housing in a community of their choice. That we are, it is important to us that we are investing in staff, collaborating with partners, and centering racial justice. As we do that, we are always acutely aware and need to continue to be acutely aware that we are investing public resources and that comes with a need to really steward those effectively and responsibly. So we are, in terms of our overarching belief is our need to do that. And then digging into those values. So what are the values that we are aligning to? And I've identified 6 different core values for us. One is to be adaptable. So we need to continue to engage in our dynamic and ever-changing environments. We need to work collaboratively because together we are able to have broader impact. That's both internally within our agency, but also externally with partners, being able to make sure that bringing the power of diverse perspectives into the conversations. Um, Equity and racial justice needs to be embedded throughout our work. It's not a one answer is the strategy. It is part of every part of the work that we do in order to strive to disrupt systems that have historically prevented wealth building, both by BIPOC community as well as by BIPOC organizations. We want to make sure and ensure that all projects are culturally responsive, and that there are deliberate pathways for culturally specific organizations to access resources. We want to ensure that our resources have impact, and need to take actions that are purposeful to support lasting impact and creating value for the communities that we serve. We act with integrity. We are trustworthy, consistent, and predictable in our work. We uphold high standards. Think this is a part of living that, and that we are wanting to continue to be leaning in towards transparency, clarity, and really design our processes to be to support the real work that needs to be done. And then lastly, supportive. We want to stand together to help each other and our partners and our communities, the cities, organizations to do the work that they are doing, and that is from a supportive place, from a culture of caring, where we can both celebrate and problem solve together. So I think that as we get those aspects finalized, the words right, we'll be able to share that on our website. But I think hopefully what I hope is that folks can understand and see that we are doing this in earnest. We are really holding ourselves to a high bar, and we'll continue to prioritize work to get there. And in all honesty, the staff are so mission driven to do all of this really complicated work to support community. And I think that there's no better place for me to feel like we are, in terms of really having the momentum, having all of the right folks at the table, both in the agency and in the community, and just really feel grateful for it, and hope that having that insight into the work that's going on behind the scene is potentially of interest and or helpful. And so I think that is, any other words on that, Michael, before we move on? Or I guess we can see if anybody has questions. Let's see the chat.
Rob does have a question in the chat. He asked,
Oh.
Where does preservation fall in the revised structure? It isn't shown on the org chart.
Thank you, Rob. So preservation is one of our strategic initiatives. And so in the planning and policy team, one of the changes that we made probably 6 to 12 months ago, anyway, is creating a new initiatives team. And so that is Michael Parkhurst manages the strategic initiatives team. And so that includes the lead for preservation, the preservation analyst, capacity, supportive housing. And I think, trying to think if there's others that are filled. But so Kyle is the new preservation strategist or initiative owner. Dana Schultz has moved into the supportive housing initiative owner role. And Kimi Wayoka is for capacity analysts. We have Kevin Burgee on architecture. And I see Rick, you popped up on the screen. It's my first day back, or both of our first day back from vacation. So maybe between us, we can have a whole mind. If there's other folks without me pulling up the org chart, I do think there's a couple others that we're aiming to hire, which is, now I remember it, Rick. We have our MWSB Workforce Equity Initiative, which we will be posting to hire soon. Claudia Cantu has stepped out of that role and is on our advisor team, which is really exciting. And then we have been recruiting for a financial strategist, and I'm not totally sure. I think that recruitment has been going on. So any other, Rick?
No, just the financial analyst we hope to have that filled by the beginning of next month. So we're really excited about that possibility. And yes, and we're currently recruiting for Claudia's replacement of WESB. Big shoes to fill there, but we're doing the best we can.
Great. Any other questions?
Natasha,
oh, hey, Shelley.
I can't type fast enough, so I'll just
ask you. Go for it.
I'm just wondering if you're going to post your org charts with all staff and where they fit, and if you'll share emails and phone numbers, and are we allowed to call and talk to people, or does every question have to go through the work center now? Thank you.
Thanks. That is a great question. I do think we are trying to have good points of entry, and I think those are efforts that are ongoing as an agency. And I think part of I don't know if anybody else has a good response on everybody's email. Part of what has happened as folks either are out for a while or leave or change roles is that when we have only people as their point of contact, it gets really difficult to make sure that the question or email has been followed up on, and so it gets a little bit lost. So that's where we have been trying to rely more on some of the central areas to say, submit your email, your question here, to be able to do it. Production, when you're dealing on a project, certainly your production analyst is your person, and so that's an individual conversation to have. So I think there's a little bit there, but I think we can be unpacking that further. And I see, Roberto, you hopped on the screen, so I'm curious for any other thoughts.
No, I think it's along those lines, Shelley, that if it's project specific that comes to the work center, and if that question or the information really is broader, that helps us to put it out for any other developer that might have the similar information. But if there are other kind of conversations to have about resources, future programs, they don't have to go through that work center because we're talking more general about resources. There, we wouldn't be opposed for anyone reaching out and then talking with staff. Keeping in mind that even we still have limited capacity, but the technical advisors also serve as that entry point to the agency. So if anything, I said that conversation could start there, because in changing, we'll be going through changes, I'm sure, but the technical advisors can help us and can help developers to point who can be the best staff to be able to answer questions that you may have. So it's a combination of, I think, meaning project specific that could go to the frequently asked questions.
Tara's been helpful, but I think what was a little confusing is when we got the work center, it's like you have a portal questions link, and then if there's specific issues with a spreadsheet, like I had an issue with the development capacity spreadsheet, I still haven't got an answer. The state drop-down box doesn't work. And one of the responses was, give us 14 days to respond to you. That's a long time. And so I'm just wondering if you can provide further direction on this. These are the types of questions that go through the portal questions link. This is what should go through the work center. it's just a little confusing where a specific question might go through, because and then you have app team, and so it's still a bit confusing.
Yeah, if I might. Yeah, thanks, Shelley. In some ways, we have a lot more tools than we've ever had before, but we are trying to help guide a lot of the information in those information streams. We do have the applications team. That is really a lot of that information is more technical to the software and questions about the apparatus of the application. So we do have that joint inbox that we're always monitoring. If you have questions, we can always make sure that you're getting routed. The portal. The questions portal is another great avenue you can always use. We do have some default language in there in which we're asking for a few days response time. And then if it is going to take us longer, then we'll go ahead and let you know, hey, that was a great question. We're still cycling on that. And we'll get back to you as quickly as we can. But typically, we're able to get back to any questions that come through that portal within a week, within a few days even. And then once the project does make it into the second step of the application process, it will be assigned a direct production analyst, same way that it has been in the past. Once we get to the other side of the application, or in the past, the NOFA application, the project would be assigned a direct production analyst. That is going to look very similar once the project makes it through this first step of the ORCA process, right? The impact assessment. Once we get into the financial eligibility, you'll have a production analyst, which you can reach out more directly about that project. But in the meantime, we do have technical advisors, and as I mentioned, we do have the applications team email. And you can always ping us there if you're feeling like you're not getting a response quickly.
So if we find a problem with a worksheet and we don't get an answer when we're ready to hit the task submit, can we just submit it and then work through it with you when you guys start reviewing it?
Yeah, that'll prompt the applications team to then start to do an evaluation of all of your submission materials, make sure that we have complete application. It's kind of in the old NOFA process, just relating it back. We used to have a preliminary review that we called the administrative review, just to make sure that we have complete application before we get too headlong into it. Once the applications team has done that review, then we'll go ahead and pull together the review team to go ahead and do the standards review. But if you want to, once you select that task in your work center, that prompts us to go ahead and start doing that review. And if we do find anything missing, then we'll reach out to you about it.
Okay, thanks.
Right. Let's see. And I see a question, Kevin, in the chat about the QAP engagement. We're still finalizing that, but I think we'll be sharing information very soon. So hopefully the next 2-3 weeks. Any other questions come to mind? Hey, Tracy.
Hey, Natasha, welcome back.
Thank you.
I don't know if Mitch is here, but I was wanting to check in on the pre-development lending where we've got a lot of projects that are excited that it's open and wondering about their options, particularly about rates, and if that information is going to be available online, or how we should advise our clients. There's Mitch. Hi, Mitch.
Hey, Tracy. Pre-development program is live, which is exciting. We started to get applications in. We are going with a 3% rate at the moment. Martin has been taking on the program management. Martin Jarvis has been taking on the program management role. In the interim, we are in the process of hiring a full-time program manager, but he is starting to review the applications now, and hopefully we'll be getting back to folks who have already submitted an application shortly, which is exciting. Yeah, some good projects already in the hopper. So yeah.
Great. Thank you.
Right. And yeah, just FYI, there will be recruitments. There are recruitments out now. There will be more to come. So feel free to check them out and decide if you'd like to use your superpowers here. Right. Okay, well, if there is nothing else at the moment, then I think we can gift you the next 20 minutes of time. back to hopefully find a fan or some air conditioning to get some relief. But I appreciate you. Thanks for showing up on this Monday afternoon, and we'll see you on Friday. Oh, Robin, do you have a question?
Well, yeah, it's kind of specific, maybe, and I already submitted it to the team, and they're trying to help me come up with an answer, but I'm maybe looking for an exception. I don't know. So there's the 2 per phase requirement that you can't have a developer that has more than 2, let's say, in impact, right? But you have really limited options out in rural areas. And so how realistic is this going to be? Are there going to be some exceptions for rural areas? Or are we simply going to have to wait and kind of twiddle our thumbs and hope that other funding doesn't go away while we wait for being able to move forward?
I mean, that is a good question. I think, functionally the cap on projects is specifically intended to ensure that we can basically it's a like managing workflow, managing the resources to make sure that there are access and not a bunch of things tied up.
Right. I left one really important piece out, which is I'm involved. An experienced development consultant, right, is involved. And so helping that entity that's going to be the developer, who's nonprofit, through this process, so that maybe they can handle more than that. And the impact phase, I mean, almost everything is, we're really quite almost done with what we need to do there, but can't submit if we have this block. And where does this block come from, and how do we fix it? Thanks.
Yeah, I mean, I think we also have regional allocations. We have set-asides for rural nonprofit development. So I think I will maybe let the team handle the question and the request for an exception offline. And I guess I will also just say that there are set-asides, nonprofit set-asides, there's geographic set-asides. So the idea of the communities not being served because one organization can't put more than 2 projects in. I don't think that that's the case because there are those other things. But I do think in the long term, if we have metrics to measure performance by, that can be transparent and consistent across all organizations, and that would give us broader latitude to support that, and that we need to be able to get projects across the finish line to show success through the ORCA process. So Roberto and Ed, I don't know if there's anything else you want to talk about on that right now, or if you want to handle that in a follow-up to Robin's outreach on that.
Because there could be more details that we don't know, so we can work with Robin to see what exactly, or all of the information that we need to have to make a determination, but we can do that internally.
Yeah, there is a lot of nuance to who the partners are and what those combinations, consultant and applicant and all of that that do make a big difference in that for sure.
Terrific. Thank you.
Yep.
You've given me hope. That's all I wanted today. Thank you.
Awesome. Great. Okay. And I have gotten a couple just direct messages, more questions on QAP and LIHTC project timing. I think, again, we are working to finalize the QAP outreach schedule. I think programming 2025, PAB is the other top of mind question. So I think we are getting close to the next steps on those, but we'll make sure that we do a technical advisory when we've got that. Great. Well, thank you so much. Have a great rest of your afternoon.
You too. Bye-bye.
Yeah, bye.